Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is my 1982 Prindle 18 that was given to me by a friend. The boat was in pretty good shape, but there was some pretty bad delamination of the hulls, especially on the starboard insides. So this needed fixing. Now I filmed part one and unfortunately lost that video, but this is part two, which is really the most interesting part, and it's where I dealt with the largest areas of delamination. So use some novel techniques here. Thought they might be interesting to pass on. Other people can try it, and hope you enjoy it.
To part two of this restoration on the Prindle 18. Um, I'm going to try something that I've been thinking about for a couple of weeks and how to resolve this problem. This section on the inside of the starboard hull is delaminated back to about the pylon. This is the worst I've ever seen. And what's happened here is it's gone concave in this section, and the inside skin has pulled away from it. So unlike the other section a little bit further back where it was more of a traditional patch that was only about 2 feet by a foot, this is going to take something a little bit different. So what's going to have to be done here is that the whole inner skin is going to have to be pushed out. So I looked around for quite a while to try to find some kind of a giant inflatable bag that could go inside here that I can inflate to kind of push the sides out. And I couldn't come up with anything. I looked at some different rafts and a few different inflatable toys, and nothing really had the right shape. So what I did find though, and although it's not exactly right, it may work, are a bunch of these bags that are used to keep pool covers down during the wintertime. So they're about 10 inches in diameter and 8 feet long. And I got a 6-pack of them off Amazon. I'll show you the make here. And they were about, I think about $35 for all 6 of them. So pretty reasonably priced. And what I've done is I've put in a drip irrigation fitting, little elbow fitting right through the cap. So I just punched a small hole through the cap. This is a fairly soft vinyl cap, and I punched this through, and seems to be in there pretty well. So now I want to do a little test to see how well they hold, say like maybe a psi to 2 psi, to help push this open. And then the idea is through the inspection port, I'm going to feed them in, and I'm going to run a couple of lines through holes that are in the bow and kind of pull them in and position them, and then attach all the air lines together and inflate it. So that's the theory. I have no idea if it's going to work, but it's the only thing I could think of to try to push the skin back out again. And I can't do the kind of drill, fill, and screw that I did on the other patch, because it's just going to make a real mess of this. It's going to be very wavy, and they're just way too much. There'd be way too many screws coming through. So I think I'm going to try this first, see if I can get it pushed out, and at the very least tack a lot of holes down to get it to hold its position again. And then maybe I could do some screw and fill in the other areas, but I'm going to kind of play it by ear after I see how it inflates, and then drill from there and kind of lay out a plan. But the main thing right now is to try to get all of these bags put in and get them lined up, and then attach them to the air hose and see if I can inflate and kind of get this delve out of here, and get it a little bit more to its original shape. Anyway, that's the plan. Okay, so I've got this all set up. I've got a air compressor with a pressure regulator on the front end here that's pretty accurate, down in the 1 to 2 psi range, and a pressure gauge here. And then this is all set up. Should be able to just inflate this and see how it does. So let me go turn on the air. All right. So you can see I've got about a PSI there coming into it. Probably going to take a while to fill this low pressure, but I don't want to blow this up. These bags are not really designed for pressure, they're just for water, so I doubt they can hold more than, say, 2 PSI. That's probably all I need. If I can get 2 PSI out of them, I think I can get it to fill. I don't want to, it's going to flow really slowly because it's such low pressure right now, but it is starting to fill. Okay, so now that this is filled, it's got about 1 PSI in it. That looks pretty good. It's holding. So now I just need to do 5 more. Okay, so here's all 6 of them. They look to be holding air pretty well. I think it's probably only about half a PSI in it right now. So I just wanted to inflate them and see how much volume they have. Figure out how many I wanted to put in. I don't want like lines and pressure points going down it, so I'm going to put more in than what it seems like it needs so that they kind of all mesh together. So I think I'm going to put 5 in. And then I taped some cardboard tubes at the end, just the bottoms of coat hangers, just so I can pull them straight back. And I'm going to tie lines to them and pull them through the porthole, the inspection port at least, on the top of the hull. And then see if I can get them kind of positioned in place using a line on each end, and then try to inflate it and see how well it works. So far so good. I'm going to drill a couple of 3/8 inch holes through here so I can run all the lines through. Now, this is kind of hard to do, but I'm going to have to make some progress here. I'll fill that up with some epoxy and some glass. Once this is all done, it won't be a big problem. Okay, that's something good to pull my lines through with. All right, so I used fish tape to just run 6 of these different colored strings down through the hull back to the inspection port here, so I can pull the tubes through, and hopefully I can see inside of here. Those lines are going underneath the support tube for the forward pontoon, and the idea is just kind of pull those through and see if I can settle them so that they're somewhat spread out, and then try inflating and see how it goes. But so far I think as long as they don't pop, and you know, if there's nothing really sharp in there, hopefully they won't, and then it should work pretty well to push them open. And we'll see. You guys might have a better view there than I can do. You can actually see the repair on the side here that I did just the other day in part 1, and just a little bit of the thickened epoxy coming through there. But that's what it looks like from the inside. Those are where the screws were penetrating. I refilled them with the thickened epoxy. Okay, I managed to get 5 of them in there. It's probably not hard to get in. In there in the picture that you can see. Those are blowing up, and I can tell that that curve is being pushed out from the outside. So it's maybe hard to see. I should have done one before, but this line right here is coming out. This line is coming up. So this is now coming back to shape. And it's probably pretty close right now. I can feel it pushing up. So maybe not so much right here, but here it looks really good. Up here is good. So at least from this part forward, I think I could start putting some holes and some epoxy and at least get part of it down. Then I may have to pull back them and redo them, but that's pretty good. It's actually coming out right here, but at least it's pretty fair along there. Okay, just like last time, I laid out the grid on 3-inch centers, so you can see all of this. Again, I think you can see better now the curvature, how it came back out again. Again, it's not perfect. It's like a little bit down right here, but hopefully it'll settle back down once I get epoxy in. But you know, it's a darn sight better than where it was collapsed. So again, I probably got about maybe just 1 psi in it now. It's fairly low. It's just really just off the needle. So I would call it maybe even just half a psi. That's all it's needed. So really need a regulator that can get down pretty low to be able to do this without blowing the hole up. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased. I think now the trick's going to be to get the hole in without going through the second skin. If I do that and drill into one of the tubes, then I got a problem. I do have one spare, but I don't even know how I'd get it back in. But all right, well, I got a lot of drilling to go. Might as well get started. Okay, so all the holes have been drilled, so we're ready to start injecting some epoxy. So created some little gutters here to try to get the epoxy. This is such a big area. I try to get some of the epoxy to drip into some pans in case I need to reuse it. But there's going to be quite a bit of epoxy used. I'm going to go ahead and cut it about halfway by volume with microballoons, phenolic microballoons, just because there's so many voids in here. I'm going to make sure that I don't go through too much epoxy with it. So that's the plan. I'm going to get started. Okay, so this is the progress so far here. I'm about 2/3 done. What I found was with the bags inflated, I was not getting some penetration in actually in quite a few of the holes. So I've let off the pressure and I'm putting in about 20 milliliters of epoxy into each hole. It's kind of you can tell that it's sagging now. And then I'm going to put pressure back on it again and blow it back out and then top off any holes. But it's kind of like a bottomless pit right now. And I think you had to go through a lot of resin if I weren't inflating it from the inside. But so far, this is working pretty well, and I haven't used too much epoxy. I've gone through about maybe 1/3 of a gallon, and I've got about 10 or 20% of these phenolic microballoons in, just to reduce the volume of the epoxy. But I think so far it's going pretty well. This whole area in the middle here is just, right now it's just probably 3/8 of an inch with 1/8 of an inch of air in it, so it's taking a lot of epoxy. But I imagine that when I inflate it, a lot of this will come back out again. But that's okay, because it'll at least soaked into the foam and the fiberglass skin, and it should seal it pretty well. So I'm not doing the tape, there's just too many holes, so I'm not doing the tape coverage. It's gonna be forever cut tape, and plus it's blowing it out so fast, it'd just be a waste of time. All right, so we're the next morning here, and it looks like the bag's held all night, and so far this looks very well firmed up. Push it on here with my hand. It's not fully cured, but it's pretty firm all the way along. Certainly a dramatic improvement, and definitely this boat will be usable with this. Probably some things I would have done differently, but generally those tubes worked as I expected they would. They kept everything inflated on the inside. It did go through probably nearly a half gallon of epoxy. Probably got about 10 or 20% of it drooled back out on the floor here, but I think pretty efficient use of the epoxy in here. So here's the whole tangled mess of bags and strings and whatnot. I think what's interesting here is it did stick in some places, and thankfully the epoxy didn't stick to this vinyl very well, so it was really ideal. It just pulled straight out. A couple places it got bonded and hung up a little bit, but for the most part it didn't stick to this. So I don't know whether they're torn or reusable, but I'll pack them away. I think probably they could be used again. I hope I never have to do this again, but if I do, at least I'll have these bags. And yeah, they worked out pretty well. None of them leaked. And I just got a little bit of a mess to clean up. Alright, so we're ready to fill these holes. I've ground them back out a little bit, and I've got a little vinyl template here where I made some lines for cutting my glass out. So there's these two holes here, and while I'm at it, there's another area here that that had some stress marks here, and you can see the glass is kind of compromised and all the way down to the foam. This is the transition between the pylon support, which is solid glass, and then the foam core at the front. So my guess is with all the flexing of this hull, because it was starting to delaminate, it was putting a lot of stress on this joint right here. So I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that area while I'm at it. And then there was one more old patch that somebody did just with some marine text back here towards the stern on the inside. Might be looks like a location maybe where the trailer hit or something, poked a hole in it. So might as well do that while we're at it. So I'm just going to get busy cutting some glass and lay this Aries up. All right, so this is the layup of the patches for the front. I didn't want to bore you all with regular fiberglassing techniques. I'm sure you've all seen that before. There's plenty of places you can see that technique better than I do it. Got a little bit of peel ply on here to help with the amine blush. I did do epoxy, obviously, and this is that structural area there where there was a problem, and it's got about 5 layers over the area where the stress was, and then it's tapered out. So that looks pretty smooth. I don't think it'll take much finishing to get that. And then the last one, just a little hole in the back here. It's all ready to go. So let that cure up and then take it off and do some finishing. All right, so we've got our peel ply here, which we're going to take off, and we'll be ready to just do a quick sand on this, and then I'm going to put on some thickened gel coat. Pretty good. Shouldn't need much filling. That's pretty flat. This one came out nice and smooth. I don't think it'll need much filling either. All right. That is significantly more solid than it was. This was the area where there was a pretty much a delamination there, that transition. All right, just a little sanding, that's all it needs. I'm going to go ahead and sand this whole area here and just take off some of the gel coat because it's a little bit chalky. I'm just going to go with some 220, light sand it, and then I'll be ready to fill these. I did find one other hole area here. I put a new hole and injected in just one spot. This was an area that it still had a void right in here, so that's nice and stiff now. So should be good to go for some filling here. I went ahead and filled this, kind of got ahead of myself and didn't film it, but basically just use a syringe and some colloidal thickener with the gel coat just to make sure all of those are filled to the top and over a little bit, and then I'll knock them all down and just made a putty out, basically roughed this out here to fill in the spots on the sides, and then just screeded this over too. So just filled everything up and just rough it down with some pretty coarse sandpaper just to get it into the right shape, and then just do probably a last final fill with some more gel coat and colloidal thickener. So yep, that'll pretty much wrap it up for tonight. We are a couple of days later, and I've got one coat of epoxy and some micro balloons on here, some glass balloons, and that's furred out pretty nicely. There's still a few little imperfections here. I blocked this out, which is really kind of a waste of time considering how unfair this hull is, but you know, trying to do my best to make it as good as possible. It's looking pretty good up there. I need a little bit more here, and to go around to this part here, this is pretty fair. This looks like it's about ready for a final sand. So one more coat of a filler in a few spots, and then this should be ready to shoot. Obviously now it's going to need a full spray of gel coat. So yeah, it had a few thin spots on it anyway, so why not give it a good coat, which means I'll have to pull the other hull and do that too, but at least have a couple of good looking hulls, and we're still looking really good. This is firmed up well, so it's worthwhile. In fact, it's turning out so well, I ordered it a new tramp, and that ought to just fit the bill really well and get this boat back in real good condition once I gel coat it. So we're about a week later here, had a chance for all epoxy to cure. You can see on the inside it's quite a bit of fairing that had to be done to try to get it somewhat smooth. Again, not looking for perfection on this thing, just want to get a coat of gel coat on. I'm running out of time. I want to get it back in the water. So just gonna wipe this down with some acetone, mask it off, and shoot some gel coat on and see how it goes. It's pretty clean. There's a few spots, a few pinholes I think are going to show up, but overall it's going to be a dramatic improvement over what it was. So get on with some gel coating. Well, it's been a little while since I finished this. I've been using it and enjoying it. Just wanted to show the end result. I didn't film all of the gel coating. Plenty of videos online about that. Look for Andy at Boatworks Today. He's got some great videos on gel coating. Did have some problems with curing of the gel coat from the amines, even though I did the wash of the amine blush on top. It still had some reaction with the gel coat. So if you're going to do this, I'd be looking for epoxies that do not react with the gel coat curing, and that'll help resolve these issues. But I'm real pleased with the results structurally. This came out really well. It's very solid, hasn't had any delamination, so I'm about to pass this on to a friend of mine who wants it, and hopefully he gets a lot of years of enjoyment out of it, and was kind of a fun project. Definitely a lot more work than I thought, but hope you all enjoyed the video, and thanks a lot for watching.